Welcome to the Headshots Podcast with Dr. Nicole, a 1-hour conversation on mental wellness to improve your look and outlook. During the show, we will talk about a variety of topics which impact you from the inside out. Each show is designed with 3 parts: lights, camera, and action. In our lights segment, we will shed light on a topic around a mental health concern. In our camera segment, we will focus on that mental health concern, educate, and raise awareness. And in our action segment, we will give 3 steps to improve your look and your outlook. So join us for the Headshots Podcast with Dr. Nicole. Good evening, everybody, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Headshots Podcast with Dr. Nicole. My name is Dr. Nicole Johnson. I'm a licensed professional counselor, addiction specialist, trauma professional, assistant professor with over 20 years experience in the behavioral health field. I want to thank you to another episode of Recovery, Recover Me, Discover Me 2021. And I want to thank God for our live audience and anyone that's watching the show in the replay. So let's get right into our lights section. So last week we started on this wonderful process of change, and we started talking about walking up the stages of change. And the stages of change, and we want to do a little review. The stages of change are steps that everyone makes in their change process. And so I want to review them all, but we're going to stop tonight at preparation. But I'm going to review them all just so you can write them down and have them. So we talked about the 6 stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and termination. So last week we covered pre-contemplation and contemplation. Pre-contemplation is the stage where you do not realize that you need to change anything. You're fine, you're good, everything is cool. And we often call it denial. And there's several reasons why people may deny a necessary change. First of all, I don't want to change. I want to stay here. I like the way I'm doing things. I like the way I'm, as we say, living, and I don't want to change. Other reasons why people deny a change is that they may not even be aware that there's a problem. We talked last week about sometimes some habits have been bred through intergenerational transfer, and these may be things we grew up with and not even realizing that they are not helpful for me. I need to change it. Then there's sometimes when people are just dead set rebellious. They don't want to change. Bad things are happening to them. They're not happy with their life, but they are determined. I don't care how much people are telling me I need to change. I'm not going to change. But if we're going to recover ourselves and discover who we really can be in 2021, we have got to move from pre-contemplation through the stages of change. And so we began to unfold and unwrap contemplation. Contemplation is the point where you are considering maybe, possibly, there might be something I might need to do differently. And in contemplation, we often can get stuck because going back and forth, change or not to change or not to change, can be a long process. So by the end of last week's episode, we gave you some homework. I know my listening audience is coming on, and I want you to put in the chat, did you do your pros and cons list? We had it posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. We had it posted everywhere, asking people to take a moment and to write down something that they needed to change and start a pros and cons list. What were we doing the pros and cons on? Not just the pros and cons about changing, but the pros and cons about staying the same. Because if we take an exploration about why we like being where we are, then maybe we can begin to understand why we haven't moved. Sometimes we look at the change and say, oh, the change is so good. I should go over there. I should try a new habit. I should try a new thing. But I find myself not being able to do it. I find myself stuck. Sometimes we're stuck in contemplation because we haven't recognized how we like where we are, the benefits we're getting where we are. And sometimes until we make that change, we don't understand the benefits of the change. And so that can keep us in the place of, maybe I'll change tomorrow. Maybe I'll change next week. Do I really need to make this change? And so last week's episode, we spent some time really talking about how to go through this contemplation process. We talked about the fact that, sometimes we have to write it down. We have to write this vision out because a lot of times it could be in our head. And if it's in our head, it goes nowhere. It just keeps spinning around and around. So I want to invite you to invite your friends, your family, like, share. Let's get together and let's continue our change process. For this year, as we were coming out of 2020 into 2021, I was hearing from so many people talking about, Dr. Nicole, I want to change. I want to leave 2020 in the past. 2021 is going to be something new for me. It's going to be different. It's going to be better. And I tell you that we started this walk, this journey of recovery, because we realized that I can't recover anything if I'm not willing to make some changes. I might have lost some things in 2020. I want to recover them in 2021, and I don't want to lose these things. I don't want to lose my progress in this year. I don't want to lose myself. And that's why the next phase of our episode of our season is not only recovery, but it's also recover me. So many things we have lost of ourselves because of the things that we have experienced. And then we recognize that as you go through contemplation and you make a decision that you're going to change, then you are going to go not only into a recovery mode, but not only into a recovering yourself mode, but in this process, my expectation is that you're going to discover some things about yourself that you had never discovered before. We talked about that Johari's window. Like as we're going through this process, we're going to uncover newness about ourselves. We're going to uncover new areas, new territory, new places. And you may say, Dr. Nicole, it sounds like you're hype, and I am hype about this change process. I'm so excited because I know without a shadow of a doubt that if you walk with us on this journey, if you walk with us in these stages of change, you are going to see transformation in your life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. You may be a business owner on this link tonight. You're going to find change in your business. Take your business through the stages of change. Take your business through recovery, recover me, discover me in 2021. And so we are going to move into this and start delving into, the fact that our pros and cons list can tell us a whole lot about ourselves. When we start looking at it, we will be able to find some things out. And we're going to talk tonight about preparation. We're going to review some things that we've been talking about, and we're going to take the information that you may have and start telling you how to prepare. So the preparation stage of change may sound similar to contemplation because you're not doing the actual change behavior yet. But by no means is contemplation not doing anything. Preparation not doing anything. In the preparation stage of change, you are getting ready to make the change. Now, some people may say, well, Nicole, wouldn't it be easier? Like if I want to stop smoking cigarettes, I just stop smoking. If I want to lose weight, I just stop eating those bad things. But I want you to understand that so many times people move forward in a change just like that. They don't take the time to plan. They don't take the time to consider what it might be like when they start this change. They don't take the time to consider what could possibly happen and prepare for it. So tonight, the preparation stage of change is to get you ready. Because when you start on this journey of recovering you and discovering you, we want to make sure that there is nothing in your way from transforming your life into the place that it should be in 2021. So tonight, I'm going to ask you, are you ready? Are you ready to make a change? If you're ready, put it in the chat box. I don't know if anybody's out there saying it, but I want to know who is ready to make a change on this Facebook Live. And if you're on YouTube, say, Dr. Nicole, I am ready tonight. I am ready to make my change. That's a declaration that we are making tonight. I am ready to make my change. And so we're going to move tonight, and we're going to bring up our co-facilitator or co-host or co-partner, Elder John Hale. Welcome back, John. Welcome back. John,
Sorry
you're
about
muted.
that. My
I'm about to
mute
say,
got,
John, it's like we on a
yeah.
Zoom. You're
Hey,
muted, brother.
listen,
You're
I'm
muted.
telling you, I got so excited and pumped up just listening to you. Hey, I'm telling you, I'm excited because of you. Wow. Thank you for welcoming me back, Dr. Johnson. And thank you, our Facebook and social media family. I'm excited about tonight's presentation.
John, I'm
Wow.
excited. I don't know if you saw my little video that I did last Saturday morning, but I woke up like it was like 5 o'clock. And I was just so excited about this change process because it was so much movement last week on our Facebook Live. So many people had tuned in. So many people was commenting and telling me how it was helping them. And I just felt so encouraged to know that somebody is locking into this change process, John.
Yes, yes.
Somebody, hey, thank you, Teresa.
Look at that. I'm
I
ready to make
am
a
ready
change.
to change. Somebody is
Yes.
on this road to recovery, recover me, discover me 2021. I can't, somebody said we should get a shirt. John, you got to work on the shirt.
Yeah,
Like
about that
somebody going through the finish
recovery,
line, right? And
discover
I'm
me.
excited because we don't know what tomorrow brings.
Hmm.
We don't know what the year is going to bring, but we have this moment right now. And that was one of the points from last week, John. Start right now. Start today.
Yes.
Why is it so important to take this moment and start preparing for this change? Why is that important, John?
Well, it's very important. It's because it's time to become unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the longer we sit in something, that's why that to get from that contemplation piece into
Mm-hmm.
preparation and realizing that, listen, preparation is doing something.
Right.
But when you sit
Right.
there and you weigh decisions too long, a lot of times we tend not to move forward. So
Mm-hmm.
getting started right away means starting to prepare.
Right.
And then
J-
that's what you do. Start to prepare. So important.
John, and I was talking about the fact that
Uh,
we started the preparation process actually last week. When
yes.
we started looking at the pros and the cons of change and the pros and the cons of staying the same, our pros and cons tell us a lot about ourselves. What are some of the things that pros and cons list can tell people about themselves?
Well, I think that's one of the most important and effective stages of preparation
Mm-hmm.
is because now what you want to do is you want to really examine. Okay, you contemplate it, you understand that there is a need for a change.
Mm-hmm.
But also you want to really examine, why am I changing, and what do
Mm-hmm.
I stand to gain about if I make this change, and
Mm-hmm.
then also what might I lose.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that's so important is because you need to understand that when you make certain sacrifices, certain things you're not going to be able to engage in, and
Right.
sometimes loss is actually gain. And you
Oh,
need to be able, yeah, you need to
yeah.
be able to write that stuff down so that you can see, actually, if I lose this, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually gaining. But
That's
you must
good.
get that pros and cons list together, is because sometimes when you're just thinking about it, you talked about it being in our head.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when it's in your head, instead of writing it down, we'll turn around and talk ourselves out of the
Mm-hmm.
benefits
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact how connected we are with the familiar of being in something, and
Mm-hmm.
how scary it could be to make that change. And all of this happens in the preparation.
Right. John, I like what you just said. Loss is gain. And we need to remember that. That is something that we need to remember, because this process, when we go through the recovery process and we're recovering ourselves and discovering new things, we may have to let go. We talked about that, right? Getting
Yeah.
up. We talked about letting go, leaving the grief, the loss, the pain. And sometimes it is a difficult opportunity. Difficult.
Yes.
You shouldn't neglect the fact that this is an opportunity to change, and you may lose out on something. But
Yes.
guess what you're losing is not worth what you're gaining. It's almost like an animal shedding their skin. They lose that skin and we lose our skin, but it's because there's new skin underneath. There
Yes.
is something to replace that, John.
Yes.
And
Discover
that's what
me.
this change is. What you say? He
Discover
said,
me. Yeah.
discover me. As I peel off this old
Hmm.
me and all this old stuff that I'm trying to get rid of, I'm going to discover that, oh, there's something underneath there, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's review the pros
Okay.
and cons list before we develop a plan. Okay. So one thing the pros and cons list tells us, it tells us what's important to us
Hmm.
in this change process. When I start looking at the benefits of staying the same and the benefits of change, that gives me an idea of where my loyalties lie,
Yes.
where my desires lie,
Yes.
where my likes lie. That tells me a lot about what's working on the inside of me. So talk about that, John, the benefit of staying the same and the benefit of change. Why are those benefits so important to focus in on?
Well, because that's where to be honest, that's where your motivation and your inspiration comes from. And
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of like what we all just been through 2020, we had an opportunity to really examine and possibly even change our perspective on certain things of what's
Mm-hmm.
important and what's not important. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I thought that's very important, is because of the fact it gives you an opportunity to really gauge, because sometimes we can think things are really important,
Mm-hmm.
but then when it comes down to sort of prioritizing them, we can realize that, you know what I thought was important um, in 2019, when
2020.
what I
Oh,
thought
okay.
was
All right,
important
John. Great.
in
I'm gonna let you go.
2019, and then I experienced what I experienced in 2020, it caused me to change my perspective,
I got you.
or shift it allowed me to look and shift my priorities.
I got you, John.
That's what I mean. And then when you do that, because sometimes when you're doing like that, it's two ways. One, sometimes we do because we evolve and we grow as people,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that
Mm-hmm.
we desire when we were in our teens, they may change when you get in your 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and that same thing may change when you get in your 30s. It may change when you get in your 40s. So just like that may change on a developmental age level, it also change anytime uh, um, life is altered the way it was in 2020. And I think this is the
Oh.
opportunity where a lot of people are really sitting back and looking, and they're saying, you know what? Not only do I need to recover, and not only do I need to recover me,
Mm-hmm.
and also, even in that process of 2020, I didn't even realize that I was discovering me when my priorities switched.
Oh, yes, John.
You know?
And, and so when we look at the benefits of change, when we look at the benefits of, first of all, where I am, because where I am, it has some benefits. That's why I'm there. That's why I'm stuck, as you said, because being here is giving me something. And even if it's giving me a sense of comfortability, a sense of normalcy, it may be bad, but I'm used to bad by now, John. I know what bad is like. I know how to live in bad. But then I start looking over the horizon and I start saying, you know what? It's almost like dreaming. I start looking at the benefits of change. I'm dreaming about what could my life look like if I make some changes. How happier could I be? How
Right.
much more peace would I have? How much more money would be in my pocket? How many more friends or social supports or friendships could I develop? How much more business could I drum up? Could I render? Could I serve? If I would just take the risk and make a change.
Yeah. So you're
But
speaking of
John,
a lot of fulfillments there.
yes,
Is the
yes,
benefit of change is actually fulfillment. And a lot of times, like you said, the reason why all this stuff is there, and I keep going back, is because there is an innate feeling that something is still missing,
yes.
even though you have settled. Something is
Mm,
still missing,
mm-hmm.
and the benefit of change, what's missing is on the other side of
On the other
change.
side.
Right.
And John, you talked about this last week, that vision is so important when it comes to change. And that's why we write the vision. We're
Yes.
writing this change out because we need to be able to see it. We need to be able to read it. We need to be able to refer to it. We need to be able to, like someone is saying here, Jessica, yes, take the
Take the
risk and
risk.
make the change.
Change. Yep.
Take the risk,
Take
everybody,
the risk.
and make the change.
I like that. Take
So
the risk.
John, here's the thing though. There's cons. There's costs to staying the same, and there's also costs to changing.
That's right.
And talk about how the costs become barriers and how we need to start addressing those barriers.
Well, yeah, the cost could definitely become a barrier. Um, and it's kind of tied in where when you're doing your pros and cons and you actually see the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you may not want to give up something,
That's right.
you know,
That's right.
and that could be the barrier because
Mm-hmm.
technically we have gotten so used to um, receiving something in that area, and that
Uh-huh.
could be anything
Uh-huh.
from a specific appetite
Right. Right.
to a false sense of security.
Right. Right.
And a lot of times we don't want to give that up is because as uncomfortable, or if you want to use the word dysfunctional,
Dysfunction.
or either unprofitable
Yes.
my
Yes.
situation may be,
Mm-hmm.
it's still something that is familiar and
It's
it's something that
familiar.
is known.
Right.
And I like
Right.
the way somebody said, but
Take the risk
take the
and make the
risk
change.
and make the change.
Make the
And
change.
yeah, because you need to see that, like I said, the benefit is on the other side of change, and you have to take
Yes.
that risk. You have
And
to.
so, John, some things I like jotted some notes down because I was like, oh my goodness, that, your pros and cons list, it highlights the areas that might be barriers. And this
Yes.
is important because as we're starting to prepare, you need to know where your blind spots are, your barriers are. It also highlights our motivators. So
Yes.
the benefits of change are our motivators. The cons of change are our barriers.
Yes. Are the barriers.
The cons of staying the same are our motivators. The benefits of staying the same is a barrier. So as you can see, if anyone did their pros and cons list, you
Yes.
started off with the benefits of staying the same, and then the cons of staying the same, and then the cons of change, and then the benefits of change. And that is strategically placed so that if you did your pros and cons list,
Uh huh.
you would always end off your list with the benefits of change because we want that to be the last thing on your mind. Sometimes when we write it out, John, we're looking at it and we're saying, oh my goodness, I didn't know I had so many things that I liked about this
That's right.
behavior. Of
That's right.
course you did. That's why
That's
you
right.
did it. That's why
Yeah.
you're there. But to know that you may also have some dreams about the future that can also be such a motivator. So, Don, I don't know if anybody on the, like I had called for it before, Did anybody do their pros and cons list? I didn't see. I don't know. I don't know who's out there. But I got my pros and cons list. I finished it. I did it. I got my area, and I'm just going to work with one area, because once I go through this process with one area, I can go through this process with 25,000 areas.
Yes. Yes.
All I need to do is to learn the skill, and I can repeat this skill over and over again. So I got my list, John. I got my list of the pros and cons of change and the pros and cons of staying the same. How can we use this list for my plan? How can we use this list to help me develop a plan for change, to prepare for this change I want to make?
Yeah, I think once you have that list, it would put you in what we talked about before, of that honest confrontation with self,
Mm-hmm.
to really look at. Now you have your motivation because you can see the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And if that motivation is something that is strong enough to launch you beyond those barriers,
Mm-hmm.
then by all means, that's great. But we may
Mm-hmm.
have some people who those barriers are so pressing
Uh-huh.
that they cannot launch themselves in spite of the barriers.
Right.
I mean, in spite of the
Right.
benefits.
Right.
And what you want to do in that particular case, Dr. Johnson, is you want to really slow down and look and say, why is this actually a barrier?
Right.
You know,
Right.
why is it a barrier?
Why is
And
this a barrier?
why is this a barrier? And then also, what makes it a challenge?
Okay. Okay.
So when you're looking
Okay.
at this, what makes it a challenge? Is it challenging because I lack knowledge and information in this area?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it because maybe I don't have the skill set to
Mm-hmm.
move
Mm-hmm.
forward? Is it
Mm-hmm.
a lack of confidence?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to check my self-talk,
Mm-hmm.
or do I lack resources?
Okay.
And
So
then
what
when
you're
you
saying,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
John, is that when we identify that there's a barrier that we need to
Uh-huh.
address, we have to not just say, okay, the barrier is I don't know how to do this. But that's not good enough.
Right.
If we're going to change, that's not good enough to say, oh, I don't know how to do that. So that it has to stay there. What you're saying is to break it down.
Break it down. That's exactly
Break it
what I'm
down
saying.
even more and
Let's
start
examine that area. Right.
dissecting the
Dissect it. Yep.
certain parts. Like you said, why is it a barrier? Like, how did this thing get here in my life? Why is it a barrier for
Why
me?
is it a barrier?
When did it grow? When
Right.
did it come up in my life and just sit there and place itself in my way? And then,
Yeah.
John, why is it so challenging for me to move past it?
Yes.
Why can
yeah.
I not? I know. And you know what? Some of you on here, you know it's a barrier.
Mhm.
You know it's a challenge. But for whatever reason, in spite of knowing it's not good for you, in spite of knowing it's something you need to get rid of, you
Mhm.
haven't been able to move it. And so John is saying, break it down more. Break
Yeah.
it down. Break it down more. Go ahead, John.
Yeah,
Break it
when you
down
break
more.
it down, because when
Mhm.
you break it down, it's giving you an opportunity to exactly see where the roots are. What is it
Yes.
actually connected to? I
Yes.
always like to look at things in physical. Is it challenged because of some physicality? Is it
Mhm.
challenged because I'm emotionally dependent upon this thing,
Oh, wow.
or
Yes.
person, or
Yes.
situation? Is
Yes.
it because of my mental, my psyche, in terms of what I'm thinking about it, my self
Mhm.
talk, as I talked
Mhm.
about before? Or is it something in my spiritual area?
Mhm.
So when you
Mhm.
look at it across the board, it gives you an opportunity to really address that root, and then you can find out what's missing. I mean, if I find the root, I know what it is. I know what my challenges are and barriers are. So
Mhm.
whether, like I said, whether it's a lack of knowledge, whether it's a skill set, whether
Mhm.
it's some confidence or resources, it gives me an opportunity now to really take a look at my dream team.
Right.
And
John,
when
I
I
want to
really look,
stop you for a second. I want
okay,
to
go ahead.
stop you for a second because of something you said. And you were talking about the fact that, is this barrier connected to me? Is
Hmm.
this is the reason because there is a physical, connection or yeah, connection or relationship? Is there an emotional relationship?
Yes,
And as
yes.
you were talking about that, or a psychological bondage or connection or bound to this thing, or spiritual. John, I started thinking about business owners. And the reason why a lot of people keep bad employees is because one, there is this emotional tie. You feel like, oh, I can't let this person go. What if I fire this person? What if I change my crew? I know the person hasn't been working, but they've been with me so long. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm doing all these people. And then it's a psychological, well, how am I going to make it without them? They know my company. But all the while, you feel like your company is going in a different direction and
Yeah.
you're stuck because you're holding emotional ties to employees that you need to let go so they can go ahead and do their thing. So they
Yes.
can make changes. And John, it just came to my mind that we're not just talking about me and sometimes we have these conversations, people think about their habits or relationships. I'm talking about every aspect of your life.
Every aspect. Yes.
You may be continuing in the same habits because you are always able to scrape your money together and get by. And you're afraid to put a budget or
Hmm.
put a budget plan a budget, right, John? You're
Plan a
afraid to
budget.
plan a budget so that you can save because you've never had money in the bank. And you're sitting there looking like, what am I going to do with the money in the bank? Leave it. You know what? Save it, invest it. And all of these changes are scary, John.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my barriers and I'm looking at my challenges and I'm saying, how in the world am I going to identify these barriers and how am I going to address these barriers? And you started talking about the dream team. You
Oh
went
yeah.
a couple episodes back and you said the way you're going to do it is don't forget your dream team.
Yeah, you have to. Just like you remember, even in Jahari's window, we have blind spots, right?
Blind spot. Yeah.
Things that we can't see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we
Mm-hmm.
have the other window of trusting my vulnerability.
Yes. Yes.
Being
Yes.
able to identify. So the things that I admit that I don't have, I need to
Mm-hmm.
admit that to someone,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
that way on my dream team I can get that from them. So somebody on my dream team may have the knowledge, somebody on my dream team may already have the skill, somebody on my dream team may help with my confidence. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about some of those positions where
Mm-hmm.
it was the mentor,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yes.
peer, and the coach. you
Yes.
know
Yes.
and everybody that was with us already know that you have to surround yourself surround yourself with good people. We
Mm-hmm.
are interdependent.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the I goes into we. Everything is
Mm.
not an I. So when you
Yes.
started talking about I do need to identify. I do need to understand the barriers. I do need
Yes.
to look deeper.
Yes.
But
Yes.
now from I, Dan has to bring in the we.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to
Mm-hmm.
bring in the we. It's because me within myself
Mm-hmm.
cannot get it all done without the we.
Right.
So I need
Right.
to humble myself and allow a mentor to get
Yes.
me to
Yes.
starting that business.
Yes.
And where I'm
Yes.
struggling at with my confidence, I need my coach to push me
Yes, John.
beyond that where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
need that peer, someone who's right in the trenches and understand exactly what I'm going through. I
Mm-hmm.
need to utilize them so that I can uh, continue to enhance my strengths, but also enhance the areas in which I am unskilled, or the areas in which I am stuck. Sometimes, Nicole, Dr. Johnson, we try to do too much
Mm-hmm.
alone and too much
Alone.
by ourselves.
Yes,
And
John.
sometimes, and that goes back to the psyche, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and, and I remember talking to a group of adolescents, and a lot of times the reason why we did the pros and cons and it came up is because a lot of times people don't want to share certain things
Yeah.
because we think that someone either going to A, judge us, or B, they're going to sort of like foil our plan.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I want to stay
Yeah.
here. I
Yeah.
don't want to
I want to
change.
say it.
I want to
So,
stay
so,
here.
but the thing is, you need to get the information so that you can weigh the pros and cons and make a best decision.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is what everything that you're talking about. If a person right now, that's why preparation is so long.
Yes. Yes.
Preparation, preparation. You have to prepare for the plan,
Yes. Yes.
and preparing
Yes.
is part of the plan.
That
So
is
sometimes we
absolutely.
like to jump right over and
That's
go
right.
right into
Into
action,
action.
and then
Right.
we find ourselves stumbling and we find ourselves falling because of the fact that we didn't take in consideration
Right.
some of the habits and routines and the
Mm-hmm.
possible barriers. Even in people who may be, for every particular reason, your barrier could be within an addiction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, people in recovery, and they are recovering themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they are discovering themselves. A lot of times, they tell you, don't go around the same people, the same places, and
Places,
the
the
same
same
things.
things.
You know,
Right.
and the
Right.
reason why is because you haven't tapped into what is connecting you, or what is triggering you when you're around certain people and doing certain things. What is triggering you to
Mm-hmm.
always fall back?
So what is
And
pulling you back into
what is
those
pulling you back? You
areas?
have to
What's
look.
pulling you back? And
Yeah.
John, when you talked about, like, as Ray is saying, having something in the dream team to help you be better, iron sharpeneth iron.
Oh,
And
I'm
John,
so
I
glad you
want to
said
I
that.
want to I want to go back to what you were talking about, because we're trying to help everyone see how all this fits together. We started talking about this change, and we early on we talked about you needing a team. And as you were just talking, John, it was almost like I could see a chess game. I could see a chess game. Okay. Um, and if you don't know where to position people, so I find out, I do this pros and cons list. And Jessica is saying, how do we tap into the trigger? So I start doing my pros and cons list, and the benefits of staying the same, those are your triggers. The benefits of staying the same are
Mm-hmm.
your triggers.
Yep.
And so I look at my triggers, and then I start looking at my team. I'm sitting there saying, this is why I like this. And then I start looking at the team members my dream team. And I
Yes.
start saying to my dream team, hey, coach, can you tell me? Can you motivate me as I'm making this change? I look to my peer and I say to my peer, I need you to help me. I need you to be my accountability partner. I need
Yes.
you to call me or let me call you when I feel like I'm getting ready. I'm being exposed to my triggers,
That's
to
it.
my things I desire. And then I say to my mentor, teach me
Yeah.
another way. Teach me a new way to address this thing that we call triggers, but it's just a activating event. It's an event that stirs up something in me psychologically, emotionally,
Yes.
spiritually, financially. It just stirs something up in me, and I start going in a direction that I regret later. And this is every last one of us. You know good well you was going to eat clean this week. You said, I'm going to eat clean. I ain't eat fried food. I'm not eating this. I'm not eating that. And the next thing you know, it's in your mouth. And you need your dream team, because you recognize your doctor just told you you are going to have to do something. And so what we're saying is, how do you address your barriers?
Yeah.
Your team is going to be that resource for you. But if you don't know what your areas are, if you don't have your pros and cons list done, you're not going to know who you need when.
Yeah.
So, like I just gave that example, if I recognize, John, I like Nicole, you know me, I like chocolate. I don't care what I will have chocolate on chocolate, chocolate ice cream with chocolate whipped cream with chocolate sauce and chocolate covered strawberries on top. Just give me all the chocolate that you can give me, and put some chocolate chips or chocolate chunks in there too. So first of all, I have to let someone know chocolate is it for me. I don't want to change, because I like chocolate. I like the way it tastes. I like the feeling I get when I eat it. It makes me feel good, and I love it. I even get a little high from chocolate. Chocolate, it excites your dopamines. It gets you happy. Okay. But I know that I need to cut back. I always go shopping with my friends. I always go shopping with John. John and I, we go to the market all the time. John is my peer. So I'm going to tell John, don't let me buy chocolate, John. I got to cut back, because I recognize Andre Person. No, you didn't, overseer.
Yes, sir.
Got a
I got
chocolate
a
cake that I
chocolate
would
cake.
love.
Yeah.
See, but John is going to help me. John is going to help me.
Yeah.
See, that person is off my dream team. I just had to move him off my dream team. but John is going to help me. John is my peer. John is going to say, Nicole, remember, Your
Yeah.
commitment to yourself. Remember, you're on this road to recovery. Remember, you're trying to discover me. You're trying to be new, Nicole. Remember what you told me when you was crying the last time you got sick because you ate all that chocolate. That's what your peer does. Then there's a coach that's saying, you know what, girl? I ate chocolate like that too. And you can do it because
Yeah,
I
you can
did
do
it.
it. Yeah.
You can do it because I've seen it done. You can do it. And then you have to use the other person on your team, the mentor. And that's where the education comes in, like you've been talking about, John,
Yes.
where they tell you step A, instead of eating chocolate, eat peanut butter.
Yeah.
Step B, slack off the peanut butter. Step C, grab yourself an orange. So accountability partners, the coach will help you through it, and the mentor gives you education. And
Yes.
this is how we use the dream team in our planning, in our planning process. How am I going to position the people in my life as I walk through this change? John, what are some ways
Wow.
to address your barriers? What are some specific steps that people can do to address their barriers? We know accountability partner is key. That's your peer.
Yep.
The coach will help you through it. That go ahead, girl. Go ahead, boy. You got it. And the mentor gives you education. But how can I use these people? Who should I be going to for what when I'm trying to address the barriers? What are the ways, John?
Well, one of the first of the ways is having that collaborative discussion, because what happens is people will get an opportunity to see what your need or deficit is, and then they also will be able to identify the area themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So in other
Mm-hmm.
words, we're all sitting around our chocolate buddy, pastor overseer persons, amen, praise God. Then obviously, if we're having this discussion and the two of you reveal that, then obviously maybe I might be the one that would be accountability person for you in that area. but
Yes.
but it's talking with the dream team, it's coming together, it's having that
Mm-hmm.
fellowship, it's having that accountability discussion, it's having that meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also I can continue to see something flash here that's very important, and that is doing something new.
Doing something new.
Doing something new. A lot of times we think that we can continue doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. No,
Right.
Webster
Right.
defines that as insanity. You can't
Right.
keep doing the same thing over again and
Right.
expect something different to happen.
Right.
You
Right.
have to do something new, and this is where our dream team comes in, is because they can identify what
Mm-hmm.
that new thing is. And then
Oh,
you
that's
talked
good.
about something that was so important, and that is very crucial, is not only the replacement behavior, but anytime you remove something, there needs to be a filler.
There needs to be a filler, John.
It has to be a filler, but you
Mm-hmm.
want it to be a healthy filler that will
Mm-hmm.
aid and assist the outcome
Mm-hmm.
that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to
Mm-hmm.
go from chocolate cake to chocolate cookies.
You right?
No,
Maybe,
you know,
John. Go ahead.
I don't want to stay on the chocolate because I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But the fact of the matter is, you have to
Yes.
do something different. And what your mentor does is bring the
Mm-hmm.
level of education that can give you ideas of what things have been successful. So when people
Okay.
are trying to stop smoking, some
Mm-hmm.
people will tell them that you have to address it in several areas. Maybe you might need to eat candy. But
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in your mental piece, because of the fact that you may have engaged in that type of behavior
Mm-hmm.
after you eat or do
Right.
something,
Right.
you
Right.
have
Right.
to realize that you need to create a new habit
Mm-hmm.
after you eat.
Right. Right. Right.
Because
So
because what's going to happen is your body, your mind is going to be summoning these things, and it
right.
needs to have a replacement. It needs to have a new memory. It needs to have a new association
Mm-hmm.
to disrupt or eliminate whatever because that's
Mm-hmm.
what you were getting. You talked about that. You was
Yes.
getting something
Yes.
from engagement. Now you
Yes.
need something from disengaging.
Disengage. Right, John.
Right. So it can't just be the theory of the benefit,
Right.
but you need some, unfortunately for us, we do need some instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And the instant
Mm-hmm.
gratification, because instant gratification is needed in a lot of cases, is because your ultimate benefit is attainable down the line.
Yes. Yes.
So
but I
what
need
am I
something
getting now?
now.
Right.
I
What am
need
I
something
getting
now
now? Right.
because my what we call triggers, I'm stimulated
Yep.
now by the old. Now I need to
Yeah.
be stimulated by the new.
By the
And
new.
this needs to be in my plan. So my plan needs to start being like, instead of this, I'm
Yes.
going to do that. That's how
Yes.
my that's how I
Yes.
need to start writing my plan.
Yep.
Okay. I used to eat chocolate when I was sad. So instead of eating chocolate, which was one of the benefits of staying the same,
Yep.
now I need to say, instead of eating chocolate, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, which takes us into using our strength, using our resources, using our dream team to develop the plan, which is
Yeah.
no more than what they say. It's a terminology, SMART goals.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't sit down and start to take what I used to do and replace it with what I want to do,
Yes.
and do it in a smart way, I'll be here in 2022 talking about recovery, recover me, discover me, because it didn't happen in 2021.
Yeah. Still
We
recovering.
got to start making some goals, John,
Yeah. Yeah. We
and
have
they
to.
have to be smart. They have to be specific. They have to be measurable. They have to be attainable. They have to be realistic.
Yeah.
And they have to be time constrained. Because if I, like you said, John, I can get stuck in the motion and not put a time limit on this change.
Yes.
Some things will take time. Some things are processes. But one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to stay in the process, because over processed food is no good.
Huh.
If you over process it, it's no good. So there has to be an end goal where I'm going to get to this, and
Yes.
understand we didn't say recovery, recover me, discover me whenever. We said recovery, recover me, discover me 2021. We put a
Yes.
time limit
Yes.
on this journey process. We put a time limit on the expectation that we have partnering with you for your change this year. Right, John?
Okay.
We're not
That's
looking,
right.
and I'm not
Mm-mm.
saying 2022, you're not going to change. We'll change something different next year. But
Mm-mm.
this year, we're going to work on this thing that you have written down, this thing
Yeah.
that you've done your pros and cons list, this thing that is interrupting your life and disrupting your future. That's what
Yes.
we want to work on. Okay. So we want to talk about the SMART goals. John, 2021, yes, I agree. It is the year. Something specific, meaning that's why we told you, you got to write one thing. We don't want you all over the place. I know there's a million things you need to change. So do I. So does John. We need one thing. One thing, very specific. What's this one thing? You know why we want to be specific? Because sometimes goals can be very large and you
Yes.
still, like John said, it's hard to get that instant gratification.
Yeah.
We need that thing. John, what do we mean by measurable? What does that mean?
Well, measurable meaning that you need to be able to determine and prove the change.
Uh-huh. So
So
we
you
can
be able
track
to
it.
you need to be able to track it and recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's where it becomes from measurable. So in
Mm-hmm.
other words, I need to be able to see me losing weight.
Right. Right.
If that's my goal, I need
Right.
to be able to see that.
I can see it by the scale.
Yeah, I can see it by the scale.
200,
Yes.
190,
Yes.
180. I know
Yes.
something's happening.
Yep.
Right.
And then
Money in the
also
bank.
money. I need to see the savings going up. Yeah.
I need see the savings going up.
But yeah, the behavior has to change, and you need to
Yes.
be able to see it. It has to be notable. It has to
Mm-hmm.
be recognizable. It
Mm-hmm.
can't just be something that you are desiring, but
Mm-hmm.
is never
Mm-hmm.
manifesting.
John, I
So
want you to
that's what you
know.
need to be able to measure.
I want you to know that the people on here, I want you to know that the things that you desire, they are attainable. I
Yes.
want you to know that there is nothing too hard for you. And if you have got God in your life, I hope you do, you and the Lord can do this. It
Mm.
is attainable. There is nothing impossible. And that's the recovery. That's the hope in recovery,
Yes.
is
Yes.
that
Yes.
you can reach this goal that you have
Yes.
for this year. And that's what makes it so realistic. We take it out of our dreams and we pull it down
Oh
by
yeah.
faith into our world.
Yes.
We make this dream, this change a reality because we're starting this process. We're not going to wait till tomorrow, next year. We're going to start right now.
Mm.
And we've already told you there's a time. John,
Yeah. It should be
you
a
got an
time.
action plan. We got 10 minutes left. Yeah, I don't know how we going to do this. I don't know how we going to do this, John. I don't know how we get into this. We get stuck every time. We get
It's all
stuck
right.
every
There's so
time
much stuff. This is
because
good.
it's so much stuff that we could talk
Yes.
about. And it's
Yes.
so intricate. But John, I have 3 action steps for planning in 3 steps. How do I start this planning? We talked about the dream team. We talked about looking at my pros and cons list and understanding that my benefits of staying the same and my benefits of change are very important. Very important things to look at. Why do I want to be here? A part 2. Yes, yes, yes. We have a
Somebody said
part
a part
2,
two.
3, 4, and 5. But the first thing I want to do in my planning, which is preparation, preparation is about planning.
Yes, it's about.
I need to plan to address my barriers.
Yes.
You're not moving into action until you address your barriers. That's why you may feel like a rubber band. You go so far and you've been popped back
Yes.
because there's a barrier that you didn't address. Like John said, there's some bondage that you didn't break out. There's some replacement behavior that you haven't established. The next thing is plan before you move.
Oh, yes.
Don't move without planning your move. A lot of times, John, we could plan, I want to move out of my neighborhood. I want to move out of my house. You don't go out tomorrow, pack all your stuff up and move. You can, but you need to plan before you move. Where are you going?
Where are you going?
How are you going to get there? What is your expectation when you arrive? This is why you need to plan before you move. And I can tell you, like John's been saying, you better write that vision. And this is the next thing. Plan smart. Develop your plan with SMART goals. Create 3 goals. Here's your homework. Here's your homework. Create 3 goals for your change area. So you got the area you want to change. I want you to break that down into 3 goals, 3 steps to reach that ultimate thing I'm trying to change, and prioritize it from easy to hard. Like John said, you want to start easy because you want to make some progress.
Yes.
Then build up to the hard things. So the first goal should be something easy. The middle goal, something to take a little bit more work. And the last step to reach your goal should be something very difficult that's going to take all the motivation and all the strength and energy you have. That way, you're going to get it. John shared this with me, and I want to share it with you how he outlined it. He said, you got to go from emergent. What has to happen right now?
Yeah.
The next thing is urgent. What's important, but doesn't need to happen right now. And then the last thing is what's routine. What's important, but you can do it later. That's how we want you to prioritize. So, John, talk to us for a few minutes about the plan SMART. Developing your plan with SMART goals. Creating 3 goals for your change area. Prioritizing easy to hard. Remembering that some things are emergent, some things are urgent, and some things are routine. But we want to start in the area. It may be emergent. It may be something you have to do right now, but usually some of those emergent things are no-brainers. If my arm is broken, it's a no-brainer. I got to go to the hospital. It doesn't take a lot of thought. It's so emergent, it's easy to do. Because I know if my window is broken, that's an emergent situation. It's easy. Fix it. I gotta fix the window. I gotta seal the hole. So, John, talk to us a little bit about how we get motivated in these SMART goals.
Wow, really quick. The best suggestion that I would have, honestly, Dr. Johnson, is that since there's 3 goals, I would pick a goal from each. And the reason why is because we are human beings that are almost engaged in everything. You know, and it's hard for us to categorize them like emergent, urgent, and routine. And we don't really know how to say this routine. For me, it is urgent.
Yes.
So what I would do is you need to find under urgent what is extremely critical right now in your life that has to change.
In this
And it's
change, in this area, right? In
in
this
this
area
area.
of our change.
Yes.
Okay.
In
All
this
right.
area of change. What is critical, absolutely needs to change, like right now and yesterday, then you make that a goal and you give them 3 action steps for that emergency area.
Okay.
And then what is important? And then you do those 3 action steps of what's important,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
make him wait for later. It may
Mm-hmm.
can wait for later, but you might find yourself unsatisfied because
Mm-hmm.
it's not done. And then
Yes.
also,
Yes.
if it's not done, that same thing that's important that you might put off may become emergent.
I got you. If
And
we
then
don't
next thing you
handle it,
know,
if
yeah,
I don't seal
next thing
that
you know,
hole,
if I don't
it's
seal
gonna
that
blow.
hole, exactly, now I
Yes.
got another crisis on my hands.
Yes. I got
And then
you.
what's actually routine? And what's
Mm-hmm.
routine might be something that is satisfying in another area.
Mm-hmm.
So you might need to branch out and do all of these things to have a
Mm-hmm.
sense of accomplishment. Is
Mm-hmm.
because your interests and desires do not lodge in one area.
I got you,
And
John.
then you're not stretching like an octopus. There may be some emergency things that I need to take care of. Let me get a goal for that. Something that
Mm-hmm.
is important, but not necessarily that I can do later, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
do it now. So there's some
Mm-hmm.
action steps that I can do now
Mm-hmm.
in that
Mm-hmm.
urgent area,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some action steps that I can
Oh,
do
John.
now for something that
Yes.
is later. Even if it's
Yes.
talking about going to school or
Yes.
talking about having a baby, at least
Yes.
I can do my research. I can feel
Yes.
connected to that
John.
desire and that goal
Yes.
at the
John.
same time as I'm addressing something that is an emergency. I know I had to
John,
do it
you
real
you
quick.
are
I'm so
you are
sorry.
stirring me because we got
I'm
4 minutes, and I'm like,
I'm
oh my
sorry. I'm
goodness.
sorry.
And you know what I'm saying, John? The reason why I love what you're saying, and we're going to put it together and make sure it's up for people so that they can start this plan, is because a lot of times that staying in one area, like somebody always handling emergencies only, they get burnt out
Yep.
because they're like, oh my God, I wish things would slow down. I'm always seem like I'm running after emergency. And what you're saying is strategically handle 3 levels.
Yeah.
3 levels at the same time so that you can touch different parts of your mentality, touch different parts of your emotions. Your emergent area is chaotic. You're going to calm the chaos, but then
Yes.
there's also a deep desire to change. You're going to start feeding that desire. And then there's an area that's easy and it would help build motivation. So you're building motivation, easing the desire, and handling the chaos. John, I love
That's
it.
it, girl. That's
I
it, Doc.
love it.
That's it, Doc.
Ease the emotion, right? Handle the easy area. Build the motivation. Ease the emotion and kill the chaos. And so by dealing with the emergent, the urgent, and the routine, I'm handling all of that at the same time. One over here, one from there, and one from there. I'm not overwhelming myself
Yeah.
because I'm not all in the emergent area or
Yes.
all in the urgent area. I'm not boring myself
Yes.
because I'm all in the routine. And so therefore, John, I will stay in this change process. So what are we saying to you tonight? Your plan is your plan. You've got your pros and cons list. You have your area of change. Start planning. How? Replacement. I used to do this, but now I'm going to do that. Some things on your list are urgent. Some of the behaviors, some of the actions, when I get my paycheck, I spend all my money. That's an emergent situation. You need to stop today. So you're going to say to yourself, okay, what am I going to do? I'm writing my plan. So instead of spending 100% of my check, I'm going to spend 95% of my check. And somebody may be saying, Nicole, that ain't change. Yes, it is.
It is.
And sometimes when we go into change, we try to do too much. We try to do too much. Just start making small changes. Just start making small shifts. Just start making small steps. Like we said last week, start today, not tomorrow. Start right now. Start tonight, writing your plan. You got your pros and cons list. Start writing the opposite. Start writing the opposite. Start going down your list, everything you have listed, and say, I can do this instead. I should do this instead. I'm going to call this woman to help me. This person might know how to do that. And go down your list and start putting your team to work.
Yes.
We're part of your team.
Yeah.
When we get on this Zoom, put us to work. We asking questions. How do you know your triggers? You know your triggers by the benefits of staying the same. That's your triggers. The benefits of staying the same. And so we are going to leave you tonight, John.
I'm excited. I'm
I'm
so excited. I have
excited,
to just zip it
John.
up because I'll go on.
I'm telling you, I don't know. I probably be up like I might be at 5 tomorrow doing a live, letting people know that this is recovery, recover me, discover me 2021. We are preparing for this change. This thing is going to work. I don't know if y'all believe this, but this is going to work this year. And we are so excited about it. Once again, thank you to everyone in our live
Thank
audience.
you, everybody.
Overseer person, I'll be there for to get that chocolate cake. We welcome everybody back. Share this video to everyone you know and let them know this is the year of change in their life. John, thank you for being with us.
Oh no, thank you for having me. Thank
And
you, Facebook, social
thank you,
media
everybody.
family.
We will see
Appreciate it.
you next week.
Yes.
Recovery, recover me, discover me 2021 on the Headshots podcast with Dr. Nicole and Elder John. See you next week, everybody. We love you.